What's going on, YouTube? So the other day, I was cleaning up my kids' Hot Wheels, because let's face it, there's nothing worse than walking through a room and stepping on Hot Wheels. Well, maybe Legos. Legos is probably worse than stepping on Hot Wheels, but Hot Wheels is a close second. And I found this, a 69 Dodge Charger. And if you grew up in the 80s, you should know what the 69 Dodge Charger is. Yep, that's right, the General Lee. So that's what I decided to do, is make this a General Lee. And after having made this, I still had some paint and some decals left over. So let's give it a shot. And let's face it, what kid doesn't need a General Lee Hot Wheel? So as you can see, this car's been well played with. Got some scratches and dents and dings here and there, and really I wasn't a big fan of the blue and green paint job. So all the more reason to paint it and start over. So I started by drilling the post. Used my 0.5 millimeter drill bit to drill the posts out. I had to make sure I went pretty slow here. I didn't want to drill too deep. The post isn't the longest post, and I didn't want to drill through the trunk or the hood of the car. And if you're into customizing your own cars, I would say be careful where you place your fingers. I haven't done it yet, but you can drill through, and if your finger's on the other side, you're going to get hurt. After drilling the hole for the screw, I went in and drilled out the post with a 9/64 drill bit. Again, I drilled pretty slow here. As you can see, this is in real time. I wanted to make sure I didn't drill too deep and go through the hood or the trunk of the car. Once the posts were drilled out, I used a screwdriver to help me remove the body from the frame. I was kind of surprised to find an engine in there. This car doesn't have a hood or anything like that, and it's a detail that goes unnoticed in the car overall. Once the car was taken apart, I used my 256 tap and tapped the holes for the screws. I like to put the screws in first to test fit them, so I can determine if I need to drill it more or tap it more, and just make sure the screws fit. And it gives the pliers something to hold on to when I paint the car. The windshield and the rear window were a little bit cloudy, so I used some rubbing compound to try and smooth out the windshield and the rear window. I then waxed it. It actually came out pretty well. As you can see here, it's better, not perfect, but for what the car's going to be used for, it works for me. I decided to paint the base of this car, and so I removed the wheels. I was trying to bend back the tab, but it ended up breaking, which, no big deal. I was able to glue the axle back in. The wheels were a little beat up, so I decided to paint them also. This is the base after it's been painted. I just used a black primer and put gloss over it. And here are the wheels after they've been painted. I just used a gunmetal paint, and it turned out pretty well. I used citrus paint stripper on the body to remove the paint. After waiting about 15 to 20 minutes, the paint lifted from the car and most of it came off pretty well. You can see a little spots where there's some green in the seams. I used some rubbing compound and a Dremel to smooth out the body a little bit and to try and get out the little flea bites and little dents and dings that were in it. I used Testors Competition Orange to paint the car. I put about 3 coats on and then wet sanded it and then sprayed it with clear. There's quite a bit of orange peel on the car after spray painting it, and after wet sanding I was able to smooth it out pretty good. And here's the car after wet sanding it. Luckily this car has a lot of flat edges and it was fairly simple to wet sand. And here's the car after spraying it with a clear coat. I used Testors Glosscote to spray it. After 1 coat of gloss, I decided to put the decals on. I'll tell you right now that this probably isn't the best way to put these decals on, but it worked for me and they turned out looking pretty good. After the decal was on, I used a brush to smooth it out and take out any air bubbles that may have been trapped underneath. As you can see, looks alright. These decals were purchased online and were the same decals I used on my General Lee truck. They're pretty good, but if you get them too wet, they'll start falling apart, and you got to be very careful in handling with them, as you can scratch the paint on them. The decals are printed on orange paper, so you don't have to cut out the numbers individually, and the orange is a little bit different than the Testors, but it's pretty close. And there it is. After having the decals on, I probably sprayed it 2 or 3 more times with the Testors clear coat. And here it is all put back together. I think it turned out pretty well, especially for what it's going to be used for. A couple kids running it up and down the track and who knows what, jumping it off of kitchen tables and countertops and everything else. And as you can see right here, the orange of the decal is just a little bit off from the orange of the paint. And here's the before and after. But let's face it, you paint anything orange, throw a big 01 on the side of it, it's going to make it better. So there it is. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, go check out some of my other ones, and thank you for watching.